Welcome to Tiny Hands Big Dreams, here in the homestead in southern Ecuador. We want to talk a bit about why we picked where we are, about what we were looking for, who we are, what our motivations were, how we ended up where we are.
Well, why we didn't pick the rest of the country.
Which is the same coin,
it is,
flipped.
But there have been some people who are like, well, what about all the other places? And we always kind of say no to them from our own perspective. So we want to explain why we didn't choose all the other areas in Ecuador that are available to live.
Yeah. We tried to amass a knowledge base. We put it all together, something that fit our wants, needs, and that's what this is. It is not an exhaustive, absolute, perfect summary of all places everywhere for all people.
But if you are looking to move to Ecuador and you kind of open the whole country to where you may want to live, this may give you an idea of why some places might not work if your wants and needs are the same as ours. That's all. So what did we want? Who are we?
Chris.
Elizabeth. Once we figured out Ecuador as an option, or as the option, we wanted to live somewhere that we could be self-sufficient, off-grid, we could grow year-round, we could be safe. Safe is a big, and safe in every way.
There's multiple aspects to the safe.
Yes.
Also free. We want to be able to do what we want. Not, oh, you can't do that without a permit. You can't this. Well, you have to get a council approval for something or other. And this and that.
In general, as people, we just kind of want to be left alone to do our own thing. That's what it all kind of comes down to.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have land. We wanted it to be affordable. All of those things, which all factor into where exactly in Ecuador we chose. Yes. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Here's all the places we didn't choose, and then at the end we'll talk about where we did choose and why.
Yeah.
So the coast. An expat,
people in general around the world live near water.
No, I like the ocean. I think, in concept, yeah, it's so cool to live near the ocean. But in reality, there's a lot of problems with it.
There is. One, pricing. We didn't have it. Two.
Well, it's pricing in numerous ways. There's the cost of living as well as the cost of land. And both are
I mean the cost of land.
Yeah, but cost of living is also higher in some places.
Sure.
Which factors into the rest of your life.
It's hot.
It is hot on the coast.
You're on the coast on the equator. It's hot.
And we wanted somewhere a little bit more temperate. So we're not really big on the
70s.
Hot.
The 70s are great. Fahrenheit scale, please. That's great. We like that. That's genetically what is good to us.
Now there is, in Ecuador, the coast is really not the safest place. Again, there's going to be many people who say otherwise. That's fine. That can be their experience and their opinion. Statistically speaking, the coast is not a safe region. Yeah.
You might have a little bubble, a thing.
There are bubbles everywhere.
It's great until it's not. Mm-hmm. So we have to look at the broader statistics of incidences of a lot of different things from afar and give a general kind of... we did a lot of touring through Google Earth, Street View, looked around.
Do a lot.
When there's a lot of shirtless people sitting around drunk on curbs and bars on windows and trash everywhere, not that city.
And after living here, and we have followed the news and the reports of things, it just isn't super safe.
No, it's played out. It's played out. The coast has issues.
Now the coast, that is one aspect of safety, is crime, human to human safety.
Yes.
There is also there's earthquakes. Now that is right along the fault line.
I mean, what's the classic in literature? There's man against man, man against nature, man against self.
Yeah.
Okay. We chose man against self.
It's hard enough. So earthquakes happen. Now they're going to happen sort of all over. We've felt them here, but the majority of them in Ecuador do hit along the coast because that is directly, on the fault line. Yeah,
it's the Pacific Rim of Fire. They get it worse.
Yep. There is also, in conjunction with that, tsunamis.
There are certain things that are full game over, full stop. There is no respawning. All dunsies. Those kind of things, while the chances are low, they are not zero, and that's a full stop. Yeah. So
So anything else about the coast? That was pretty much it for us.
Yeah, it just didn't suit us.
No. Close to the coast, but slightly more inland, is Guayaquil. Guayaquil's a big city.
It's a big city.
Port city. Port cities have problems.
You get your pollution, you get your crime.
Well, you get here's I guess something to sort of like encompass all this. We are not city people. If you are a city person, our opinions are not going to match yours.
Some of the things we talk about, some areas, are going to be useful, but in general, our opinions are skewed towards we don't like big cities. I find big cities have big city problems.
Well,
they're impersonal.
They are also, there's pollution, there's crime, there's all of the things that come with more population in one small space.
Yes.
That's just what it is. So Guayaquil in particular, again, I'm just going to call out the statistics of like, we have watched the crime over the last few years in all parts of Ecuador. Guayaquil is, I would say, the absolute worst.
It is the absolute worst.
I think, actually, statistically speaking, it is the worst.
It is, far and away.
So bad. And we're not just talking petty theft or something. We're talking about violent crime. Obviously, I don't want any of the crime, but this is... well, I mean, you know, you don't want any crime. But the violent crime there is through the roof, real bad right now. Ecuador
actually has a standing in the murder ratings of the world, and a good percentage of that is that area.
Now, it's also expensive because of big city.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's what it is. Yeah. I would absolutely stay away from Guayaquil. Just across the board.
Yeah.
Because it just isn't safe. Quito is the capital. It is a big city. Again, big city problems.
Not as bad. Not great.
Not crime-wise as bad. But it's pretty close. I think it's next bad.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a big city. But there are other issues to Quito for us.
Like we stayed there once, and the guy was telling us who was actually linked to our Airbnb host, who was a taxi driver. This was his friend. He throws his friend business. He was real nice.
Okay.
Which totally worked out. But he goes, watch that guy, watch here, watch this, hold your bag. Don't don't keep your phone in your back pocket. Things when you go in through a door, watch who's behind you so they don't push the special locking door to the apartment complex open again after you go through. Make sure it's closed.
We walked around Quito for one day, and I thought that was more than sufficient for the rest of my life.
We definitely saw people standing around on the streets casing us, and I do know what that looks like.
We stuck out very much there.
Yeah. And while we don't look terribly wealthy, we do stick out.
Yeah. I didn't feel safe there at all in any way.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing about Quito is that it is higher elevation.
Oh, you're gonna suck wind.
Unless you live at elevation already.
We've lived in Colorado, mile high. We've lived in Washington, sea level, Tennessee.
Pretty much sea level.
Close to sea level.
Quito was rough.
Colorado took some getting used to at over 5,000 feet. Quito is what, 9?
Yeah.
9,000 feet.
A little over.
Yeah.
Sucking wind. It was rough. Now, you can adjust to that. That is, most people can adjust to it.
Yeah.
With time.
But you're still not going to be as Olympic. Sorry. We were just dealing with pigs and trying to move them to an area, and the little biting bugs have followed us back.
No, part of higher elevation is that it's cooler. Quito is much cooler.
Yeah.
It's not
short weather.
No, it's not the climate that we wanted. Now, there are areas outside of Quito that are potentially nicer.
Yeah.
Quito is also near a volcano. There are several volcanoes in Ecuador. I do not want to be near a volcano. Volcano is one of those
big boom, all done.
You're all done. There are things you can, earthquakes, you can build to survive. You can, volcanoes they're just a big no.
Yeah. So we have a friend here who's actually lived through 2 volcanoes that erupted spontaneously. And one of them, he was asleep. He didn't know it. It wasn't close to him. The sulfuric acid cloud and ash drifted across the country to where he was. and he woke up choking, thinking he was going to die because the air was just saturated with sulfuric acid. Burned him inside and out. He couldn't see anything. There was ash. He escaped that one and another one that was almost the same deal. Lost everything. Complete and total loss. Walk away.
It's a total loss, and if not, loss of life. There's a lot of things I can put up with in life. The volcanoes, I am uninterested in being close enough
Historically,
to be
we have lived through, everybody watching this, a volcanically quiet period in Earth's history. It has been rather pleasant for a period, if you look at it geologically.
Overall, not just volcanic activity, but just a quiet period in Earth's history.
And like all things, there is a cyclical nature to the movements of the sun and its effect on the Earth and the volcanoes and the earthquakes, all of it. So we're headed back into a more tumultuous time, as you may have seen from the weather being slightly more crazy year after year.
All the extremes are going to be more extreme.
Yes.
The heat, the cold, the earthquakes, the volcanoes,
the tornadoes,
the rain,
out of
the droughts,
season.
All of it is going to be more extreme, which is why we kept going for the least extreme place that we could find. Now, Quito is a little extreme. Between the volcanoes and the cooler weather, if it goes 20 degrees cooler, you're not growing a thing.
Nothing.
Nothing, not a chance. And if the volcanoes are up, you're toast.
Yeah.
Now, Quito itself was obviously out for us because it was a big city. Regardless, it never was even a consideration.
Also, we have to look at wherever we are and we're like, oh, there might be this great place near it. Then Quito is your closest big supply point where you need specialty things.
There are only so many big cities in Ecuador that are then like the hub of that area. So you have to think about where you want your hub to be. Do you want Quito to be your hub? Well, it's a big city. It is more expensive. Everything's more expensive. You then have to go there and you have to deal with the city.
Yeah. I don't like anywhere where I have to pay for parking.
Oh, right?
The little towns that are around us that we go to,
it's great.
Nobody pays for parking.
No. Now, one of the much talked about expat locations is Cotacachi. What are your thoughts on Cotacachi?
I only know, so we'll give information on things that we directly know about, things that we've read reputable sources on, and we've received secondhand information from reputable people that would have that information by being there. That's all we'll ever talk about.
If you ask us about somewhere that we don't know anything about, we'll
tell you we don't know.
Sorry, we don't know.
But we try to be very real. We're not super fanboys of any one area, super haters of any other. We will tell things like they are.
Yeah.
Cotacachi is suffering a similar problem to other enclaves of expats who have congregated and become a target for crime.
It's disappointing.
People are moving
it wasn't like that.
there, and then Vilca's the other one where people have a lot of money compared to the local people. They're buying $1 million estates. They're kind of flaunting their wealth. It is attracting cartel activity. They're preying upon them because they are rich targets. Yeah. It is what it is. You don't go fish in a pond with only one fish. You go to the pond with lots of fish, big fish.
Yep.
That's where you fish.
Yep.
So,
so that's the crime aspect of Cotacachi. As far as an area, I don't think it's a terrible area. Like, if you get outside of some of this, if you get far enough outside of Quito, you're going to find little towns that I'm sure are lovely. But that goes back to, do you want Quito to be your hub?
I think there is safety in separation and a bit of isolation, where there's simply just not the attraction for people to come and seek you out because you're just one little person.
So Cuenca, if we go south, Cuenca is the next big city.
Yep.
It's smaller than Quito, but it is similar in problems. It has less crime. It is slightly lower in elevation. A lot of people have said they really like it there.
Yeah.
We were there once. Can't speak a whole lot to the experience there. We went to get our cedulas there, and that was literally it. Yeah,
again, elevation wasn't our ideal. Ideally...
Because it's at a little over 8,000 feet.
Right. How many meters?
2,500.
Okay. So we are at 1,000 meters. And I think we're probably perfect for what we want to do.
We could be a touch higher.
The plants would like it a touch warmer. We would like it a touch cooler.
Yeah.
So at 1,000 meters, I want to say 1,200, 1,300 tops is kind of our sweet spot.
So if you look at then your 2,500.
Elevation, except for microclimate, pretty much equals your day and night temperatures.
So Cuenca is much cooler.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if you don't want to grow all of the food and you simply want to live somewhere a little bit cooler and less humid, a lot of people have said they really like Cuenca and the outskirts of Cuenca as well.
It depends on how you want to live.
Yes. Now, this also still has a volcano risk.
It does.
Which is part of why, as we considered all of the areas, we kept marching south away from the volcanoes as much as we could.
So she's a map nerd. So when you look at the maps, you look at all the historical volcanoes, you look at the earthquakes, you look at predominant wind patterns, storms, things, and
you also look at the temperature gradient map.
The temperature gradient map, if you go to zoom.earth and you just look at the temperatures, you'll realize, it goes blue,
yellow, orange, red.
Right, something
purple.
like that. And you realize somewhere in that like yellowy light orange is the comfortable temperatures, but there's not much of that.
You get cold down the Andes.
Yeah, you get a lot of blue.
Really hot as soon as the foothills are kind of where you want to be.
So there's only these tiny little strips of this like nice temperature, which is probably less than 1% of the entire country. And if you look at the rest of the world, you have it for a season or a minute or a month or two, and then it's hotter, then it's colder, then it's this and that. We are consistently at a nice temperature. That was kind of a big deal to us.
Now, the foothills between the Andes and the coast.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to the idea of it. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong. I think there are probably some lovely towns there. I looked at the internet, that's as much as I know, but they seem lovely. You do have the problem of the volcanoes still, unless you get far enough away. And if you get far enough away, you're kind of past the foothills, and then you're into the lowland, and then it gets hot again.
Yeah.
You also have, I think there's an increased crime between the coast and the big cities, because that is sort of the traveling of all people.
Yeah.
Goes between the coast, all goods go between the coast and the big cities.
There was even
from ports to
someone was talking about we got to go to Cuenca or something on a bus, and the bus was held up by people with guns.
Oh, it happens all the time.
And they boarded the bus and just demanded like your money and your phone.
Yeah.
And there was no further violence, but it's just one of those like robbery sort of like. And what are you going to do?
There's not a lot you can do. Again, I think that if you got far enough off main roads, main highways, you probably wouldn't have regular issues with it. But then again, you're traveling to Quito or Cuenca for any supplies that you need.
Yeah.
So that's just a consideration. Okay, so we get down to Loja, which is where we started our adventure.
Yeah.
We planned Loja because it was far enough away from the volcanoes.
We chose Loja.
It was in the chicken's head.
Yeah.
You're going to explain the chicken?
If you look at Ecuador on a map and you flip it upside down, it's a chicken.
It's a chicken. It's really fun. So we reference parts of the chicken.
Yeah.
We intended to be outside of Loja. That was our plan. We have a long story.
We chose Loja as our possible like big city to be able to get supplies, and it was honestly,
we really liked Loja.
It was really nice. Crime was almost nothing,
especially for a city.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's a bigger city.
And it's known as a very tranquil city.
Yeah. It is also a little lower in elevation. It's only 2,000 meters. So it's a little
It's
lower.
still cold.
It's a little cold still. Now, we intended, we're not going to tell the whole long story, but we were planning on living just outside of Loja. We had plans to sort of have an intentional community there. That kind of went up in smoke and flames. But we were perhaps slightly naive about its temperature.
You get a few warm days, and you're like, oh, it's going to warm up. Nope. And then it's back. Cold.
And it's windy for a good portion of the year. It is
like,
not just breezy, I'm talking wind.
Like the windows rattle so hard you think they're going to break and fall on you in your bed.
Yeah, it was a bad night. At some point you just get out of bed because you're scared. It was bad. It was real rough. It was really not pleasant. Now, I think that if you want to live in a city in Ecuador, I would still say Loja is probably your best option. It is smaller. You don't have... I really don't think you have a lot of natural disaster risks, just where it is.
Earthquakes.
You always have, earthquakes are happening in random places at this point.
Building codes are not up to earthquake spec.
Yeah.
The methodology they use is not seismically great. Quality control can be very questionable. We're just going to water the concrete down way too much, so it pours easier, and pouring with buckets. So
you have the potential of earthquake, but you are not directly on a fault line, and you are not really at risk of a volcano beyond like distant. I mean, at some point you'll be affected. I think we got smoke from one once or something, but small effect, not life altering. Now you go south from Loja.
Now, Loja also for us is a big city. We were close to neighbors. There was noise constantly.
It's got big city problems.
Roosters crow 24/7 because there's so much light. They never go to sleep. There's taxis, there's trucks, there's the Loja gas guy blaring his music.
Air and
people burning trash,
water,
smoke drifts across. People throw a quinceañera or a birthday party or something, and they have industrial speakers 9 blocks away that are shaking your bed like a cheap motel. You put quarters in the thing. Holy cow!
It's a city.
Yeah.
It's got city problems.
And I guess there's no such thing as a noise complaint.
No,
there's not. You can just do that, which is good and bad.
South, what we're gonna call like the corridor to Peru.
Now, you can't just look at Ecuador and think that like there's a whole south part. You have to look at the mountain ranges and the roads. There
is really, for the most part, just one road that goes south.
Yeah, and then there's the coastal road, which is...
The coastal. There's also, if you go west to Catamayo, where the airport is, and down, that is also kind of the secondary path south. But for the most part, if you're looking at decent-sized towns, you're just going south from
Loja, Malacatos,
Vilcabamba, you've got Holanda, you've got Zumba.
Right.
And then you got Peru.
So it's really sort of a corridor.
Yeah.
All supplies come from Loja.
Yeah.
Loja gets all their supplies from generally Guayaquil. Some food will come down from the northeast part of the country, but it all comes through Loja down that corridor. That's your supply chain. Unfortunately, the cities get tiny. So your supply chain starts to get small. There's not the choices or the prices that you're going to get elsewhere. Prices are higher, selection is less.
Yeah. So you have access. Right now there are roads that are closed, like just closed. Buses stopped running at some point.
Buses are no longer running to Zumba in the south because the roads are so bad.
Now we have a little bit more firsthand experience and knowledge going south because we almost lived there.
We fell in love with the property down in Valladolid,
which is just north of Polanda.
Yeah, so you go Loja, Malacatos, Vilca, Kinara, Yangana, and then you got a big old pass, and you go over a mountain, and you're out. Oh yeah, as you go south, there's pass after pass after pass.
And then there's a big pass. It's really big.
So all
it's
of
in
your
the clouds.
supply chains, remember, are going back over all these passes to get back to Loja. If you just want to go for a day of shopping at the big supermarket, which is Loja, nothing south of there, you're driving all the way back to Loja. So every hour you are south is an hour there and an hour back every time. If you're in Zumba right now, it is 8 hours, maybe 9 hours to Loja, one way. Do whatever you got to do, and then 8 or 9 hours back. And a lot of it on roads that are so bad, even the kamikaze bus drivers won't go on them because they damage the buses. That's bad.
It's real bad. And that was a big part of what we were worried about living there. It's like, well, could we live there at that far away from? And you know
And
what?
that was one of our biggest,
I'm glad the plan fell apart, because I think that could have been really bad.
the roads have gotten worse.
Well, also looking at now, of course, we want to be self-sufficient and grow all of our own food and all of these things, but it takes time to get to that point. Because we're still not at that point, even close.
So you're reliant upon the systems that exist,
Yes.
on somebody else growing your food that you can buy from them.
For at least some amount of time, or forever if that's what you want to do, which is really hard to do when you are that isolated from the supply.
Yeah. My
No.
friend who's down south there has to go to Loja for any sort of minimal dental work. So it's a 2-day trip.
And these are all real small towns.
That's hard after having dental work.
God, I can't imagine. So bad. So there is access. There is the distance you are from Loja. There is also crime.
Yeah. The weather's beautiful.
The weather is great.
It is lovely. Your altitudes are right in
with.
the optimal there. It is these gorgeous hills, mostly grass and trees, things.
It's honestly a completely beautiful place. I can see why people fall in love with it.
You could start a coffee plantation down there, own a helicopter, and be just happy as punch.
We're not that rich.
Yeah. Now, the problem that is really crept up is crime, and it's crept up from Peru. But there's also local crime that it is starting to happen. But it has increased to the point of people that are living there are telling me, no, nobody should come here now. It is not safe.
Not expats. Nobody.
People,
which is a very different thing.
Down in the south parts, they said, are selling their fancy cars because they're being targeted and then followed and watched, and then their houses are watched till they're not there so people can break in. So they're selling their cars to drive crappy cars. This is a level of crime we want nothing to do with.
No.
I want to live in a very secure place. I want to know my neighbors. I want them to look out for me, and they do. And if a car comes up the road, they'd be like, oh, we saw the car went up the road. Do you know who that was? Be like, yeah, or no. Like we...
Yeah.
It's great. If we have to always have one eye open at night, worrying about crime and things and whatever else, no.
We have lived like that before.
Yeah.
And it is very unpleasant.
We've lived in rough areas where you lock everything the second you walk away from it, always.
Or the second you come home, you lock the door.
Yeah.
I don't like living that way.
No.
Now, we would be remiss if we did not bring up Vilcabamba, because as an expat, that is a thing that you are probably most aware of.
It gets
the most publicity.
People will tell you that it's totally safe and it's great and it's all better and all the crime's gone. According to the police and the reports and the meetings that they have about the crimes, and they're not small crimes, these are violent, horrific, life-altering, ending kind of crimes. No, the problem is not gone. It's not all reported either. There's a lot more than gets reported.
Yep.
There's what is reported to the police, which is a subset, and then there is what is reported in the media, which is a very small subset. There is much more than what is being talked about.
Yes.
So be aware. You can request the police report for any area. Mm-hmm. The report is done in Loja, which is a different province, but you can do that and request the actual police report and at least get that information. You have to you have to write a whole paper requesting the report and why you want it and things and stuff, and it can be a bit of a pain. But it is available. So
where do you request? And you can do that for anywhere in Ecuador?
Yeah.
You just go to the biggest city.
I don't. No, they just. We checked here, and they said, well, for our area, that's all done in an office in Loja. I didn't find out the exact address.
Okay.
But everywhere has an office that they deal with a region, and they can do crime reports.
Which is good information to have.
Yeah. But again, that is only what is officially reported.
Yeah.
So.
All right. The Upper Amazon Napo butt of the chicken.
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. Look at some chicken butts out there.
It's hot.
So hot.
So you look at your elevations. If you go to Google Earth and you just click around and you see
below sea level,
300, 200 meters, something, and you're like, that is lowland.
So hot.
Now,
again, there are microclimates here. There's like crazy microclimates that will then mean that it's not hot where it should be, or
hot and swampy.
Vice versa. But
also,
in general, that region is real hot.
Your lack of hills means a flooding issue. If it arises, you are on flat land.
If it arises.
Which means you like that?
I like that.
You like that. The water comes up, and it takes a very long time to go away because you're not living on a hill. We chose a hill. In case of biblical grade rain, water goes that way. We're okay.
Yeah. There are other pretty significant issues to that area. Again, Quito is your closest hub city, and it's not very close, depending on where you are in that Amazon region, in the Napo region.
There is also cartel crime things from the Colombia side. Ecuador has always been known as the quiet, tranquil spot between two troublesome neighbors.
Troublesome neighbors are becoming more troublesome.
And Ecuador is sort of getting caught in the middle of they've been using Ecuador's ports to ship cocaine to Europe. The cartels are looking for more targets, more things. Everybody's scratching for more territory and more money. So the quiet spot is having problems. Now, politically, the new president seems hell-bent on ending all of that in a very non-just verbal way, but the man is walking the walk.
Yeah.
And we are watching closely, and we will judge him based on results, on how it does. But so far, we are seeing a lot of action of pushing it all back, arresting the heads of places, shutting stuff down.
Now, and that
legit.
will affect how we may feel in the future about these areas.
Oh, yeah.
But it isn't going to be a quick thing. It's going to take time.
It takes time.
Colombia, it's close to the Colombian border. I wouldn't do it. I think safety-wise, there's too many problems right now. In the future, it might be okay, but right now, I would not.
Yeah.
Now that leads us to here.
We are in what's called the Oriente, which is the area between Loja, Zamora, really, because from Loja to Zamora, there's just a pass. Now, there's some lovely properties along that pass. Don't get me wrong. There's not a lot of other than space. That, yeah. But there is some lovely areas. And then you get Zamora, and then the highway meanders the valley to the northeast, all the way to, eventually you get to Cuenca if you kept going.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's where we chose. So there's a ton of little foothills along there. There's a lot of space. Real estate is affordable still.
Well, so I think part of what it is this is one of the less populated or more recently populated.
It is.
I don't have the date in my head, but there wasn't a road here for a long time.
No, the road is
relatively new. New in the grand scheme of things. 15,
20, 25 years, something like that. There's still boats around, long, skinny boats, because everything was moved up and down the rivers. Because the road was rough and dirt and just sort of like that's an adventure.
So this is a slightly more recently populated and developed area, which I think leads to.
And they're constantly now building new roads up into the foothills. Our road, we had to finish the last kilometer of it, just to get to our property. But now that there's other people, there's another road on the other side of a hill. I
think it's a growing area.
The entire Oriente is a growing area. And there is the space to do it.
Now, if we talk about geography, we are on the east side of the Andes, which means there is no tsunami that's ever going to touch us.
No.
Ever.
We are protected by some very tall mountains.
Yes. Now, earthquakes, yes, there are some. I don't know at this point if there's going to be anywhere in the world that's safe from the potential of an earthquake. There's weird earthquakes in weird places right now. So yes, we have felt them. None of them have been catastrophic. We have never had any damage.
Our existing little house here, a casita, they call it, is about as strong as a deck of cards and a few inches of tape.
It's rough. And it is still
like
here.
Scotch tape. And it weeble wobbles in different directions sometimes. Is not solid.
And it's still here.
It's still here. It won't be for long. Ants have eaten the bases as well. Like the posts aren't in the ground.
But
our new house we're building much stronger. It will probably take a very strong earthquake, likely with some damage, but it won't come down.
So we do not have natural disasters to worry about. We neither flood nor have so far had a significant drought in this area.
No.
Yes, those things could happen, but in general, we are very mild.
Yeah. So there's also, when you look at weather, like there's a hurricane map of like every tornado, every hurricane that's ever happened, and there's maps, all of them mapped. And then there's Ecuador.
Yeah.
Nope. There's ones that roll through Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula and the U.S. and the thing and the Pacific. You know, there's nothing that ever happens down here on the equator.
So we have picked the safest place in many ways in a country that we think is in many ways safe. Yes, there's crime and there's issues, but
I have been all across the U.S. This is the safest place I have ever lived.
Yep.
Where we are now, everywhere has their little pockets and their things. This is a pretty big pocket, and we're far from both the Colombia and Peru forces kind of like creeping in.
Now, what is also important, because we talk a lot about like hub city. Yes, our closest big city is Loja, which is like 4 hours away. Not terrible, but too much for regular shopping. We do have Zaza, which is a significantly enough sized town, bordering on city, big town.
If we had money, we could buy stuff there.
Right? You get most of everything you need there. Some specialty items you might need from Loja. You can also get things brought in to Zaza from Loja. Yeah,
there's a ton of big hardware stores. You can get any sort of supplies. I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 hardware stores, like good size. There's a lot of small ones. There's, a ton of whatever you need.
It just makes us not beholden to go to Loja as a big city.
Yes.
Which was important to us. We don't want to be more than an hour away from a supplier of things. Food, hardware store, things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was it.
Yeah, the original comment that started this whole thing was, oh, you guys don't like anywhere in Ecuador. Like,
we actually do.
We actually do, but thanks for telling us what we know and are.
But we're also very honest, and we're not going to say, oh, this place is great, when it's not. So when someone asks us about a certain area, if we have knowledge, we are going to share the honest truth of what
we tell it like it is.
And we're pretty happy here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the kid lost a pig.
I think we got her back.
So,
oh boy,
we may have to go help with that. Life in the Ecuadorian homestead. Well, if this was interesting, subscribe. We'll do more in the future. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you for the next one. Hey, look at the pigs go.
Eli put the coffee out there.
Oh.
The coffee cherries.